Organic farming is also create another unwanted environmental issue. The left out or unutilized organic manure or feed will create the water quality problem is called eutrophication. You can see here the organic farming, because of organic waste in the farming system, it will create the eutrophication related issue. That means the unwanted algal bloom is occurring and the water quality is spoiled. The toxic compounds is increased in the culture system. Because of that reason, the all cultivable organisms are dying. Okay, so the farmers are losing their crop. Okay, so when look for an alternative, when we look for the alternative, we are going back to our ancestor way of culturing. There is nothing but using the natural feed to grow the fish or shrimp, natural based farming of fish or shrimp. Okay, so before the pellet feed or artificial feed coming into the practice, normally our forefathers, were our ancestors, they are cultivating the fish or any cultivable organism using the natural feed available in the system. Okay, so now the total aquaculture industry is moving towards the bioflak farming, way of farming, bioflak method of farming. Bioflak is nothing but using the biological organism alone living in the culture system, which will be a good feed or which will be a good nutrition to the cultivable organism. Okay, so in this context, we have a different types of natural energy or natural feed, starting from microalgae, rotifer, artemia, cladocerans, copepods, amphipods, polychaetes. We have n number of fish feed or live feed available in the nature that can be used to produce or culture our cultivable organism. This is called what natural based farming or bioflak way of aquaculture. Okay, but if you use the traditional live feeds, traditional natural feeds like microalgae, rotifer, artemia, and cladoceran or any live feed. Okay, unfortunately, we need live feed, especially in hatchery, to produce the fish larvae or shrimp larvae or juveniles or fingerlings or prey. We have to feed our fish seed with live feed available or produced in the hatchery. So till today, the total aquaculture industry in the world, especially in India, we are still depending on the artemia and rotifer to produce our seed, fish seed or shrimp seed. Okay, but unfortunately, these traditional live feeds like rotifer, artemia, and so on. Okay, cladoceran, even cladoceran, nutritionally very poor. Okay, to feed your larvae, you have to provide good nutrition so that the farmers can able to produce high quality seed or high health seed. So that if farmers use that high quality seed means it's nothing but immune developed seed, the larvae which has more immunity. So that immune will be developed or improved by providing a nutritionally balanced live feed. Okay, unfortunately, as I said, these existing live feeds like rotifer and artemia, the nutritionally very poor. So that in hatchery, normally the farmers, what they are doing, they are enriching the live feed along with using the commercially available emulsifiers, commercially available nutrition like Selco, protein Selco, DHA Selco, EPA Selco. So this bio enrichment process increase the cost of production. Okay, the bio enrichment process increase the cost of production, so that the farmers are not able to get more benefit, not getting more benefit. So instead of using this bio enrichment process, fortunately, the nature will gifted us one of the important live feed, natural feed, which is living in the ocean. Not only ocean, in all freshwater system. The one of the important zooplankton, which is the dominant group of zooplankton living in the ocean, or otherwise called insect of the sea. Okay, and this is a dominant zooplankton group living in the ocean. This particular group of zooplankton, that is nothing but copepod. Copepod is nutritionally superior. If you use the copepod in your hatchery to produce your larvae or seed, we can able to produce high quality seed. The reason the copepods can able to supply all essential nutrients of the fish larvae required. Okay, so that with this background. Actually, we have started our work in Bharatdasan University, collecting the copepods, different species of copepods from the coastal area, and we have started segregating the species and analyzing their nutritional characteristics. How far the copepod is better than existing live feeds. Okay, so you can see here in the slide. This is the typical structure of copepod. Okay, copepod is nothing but which comes under the phylum Arthropoda, class Crustacea. Okay, so for example, I will tell you, if you collect 1 liter of seawater, okay, if you collect 1 liter of seawater and the 80% is composed of copepods, that is the dominant metazoan. Okay, and this copepod, actually, they are growing abundantly. They are growing abundantly in the ocean. The moment if you bring this copepod to the culture condition or captive condition or hatchery condition, they are not surviving in the hatchery condition. Okay, so that to develop the copepod culture, we have to study several biology of particular copepod species. Okay, that we have actually attempted in our lab, and we have successfully come out with the good technology for the production of copepod now. Okay, so before going into the real mass culture, I mean high density culture of copepods, let me explain about something about the advantages of marine copepod. How far marine copepod is better alternative than the Artemia or rotifer. Okay, so actually our group, our students, we have a very good team of students, both past students and current students. They are doing a very good work on this copepod by analyzing their nutritional characteristics. So protein, enzyme, essential amino acids, highly unsaturated fatty acids, arachidonic acids, pigments, minerals. So if you considering these all characters, the copepods are rich in protein. Copepods are rich in digestive enzyme, particularly digestive enzyme, which is highly essential for the larvae. The moment if you give the copepod in your culture tank or culture pond, the fish or shrimp, they can easily engulf the copepod and digest that prey material as early as possible, so that your animal will used to take again and again. Okay, so within a short period of time, your animal will become more bulky. So it is a need of the hour for farmers. Within a short period of time, we can able to grow our fish or shrimp in a good marketable size, which is highly benefit to the farmers. Okay, and the copepods are rich in essential amino acids. So as you know well, essential amino acids is a very good important nutrition for any cultivable organism. And one of the advantage behind the copepod, it is very good source of highly unsaturated fatty acids and arachidonic acid, which are well-known body building fatty acids. Okay, these are important. The fatty acids like EPA and DHA, along with arachidonic acid, these 3 important fatty acids are very important fatty acids which can build the muscle, a tissue of the any cultivable organism. And fortunately, in copepod, these particular fatty acids are available abundantly. When compared to rotifer and Artemia, 10-fold the UPA content is higher in copepods. And another advantage behind the copepod, it is rich in antioxidant. Okay, it is very, very rich in antioxidant, and it is rich in astaxanthin pigment. So astaxanthin, if you just refer the article, if you take more astaxanthin, you can get more immunity. Even recently, due to COVID-19, the COVID-19 will be prevented if our immune system will be higher. Okay, so if you have more immune system, there won't be any COVID disease. Coronavirus will not be come to us. So this is reported. If you take more astaxanthin pigment in your diet, you don't get any disease. Similarly, this cultivable organism, shrimp and fish, they are having more immunity by using the copepod, since copepods are supplying more astaxanthin pigment, and along with vitamin C and E and minerals. So all nutritional compounds, starting from protein to pigments, all nutritional compounds are very rich in copepod, so that if you use copepod to grow your fish larvae or shrimp larvae, there is no need of any enrichment process. Bioenrichment is not at all needed, which will increase the cost of production for the farmers. Okay, you can just directly use the naturally grown copepod, which is considered being as a living capsule. This copepod is popularly termed as living capsule. Okay. And I am not telling blindly. We have analyzed all biochemical composition of the copepods. You can see here in this table, the protein in rotifer, artemia, and copepod. The copepod is always having more protein. Whereas the lipid content, you can see in the table, the lipid content in artemia 15.11%, whereas in copepod is 15.36%. There's no much variation between the artemia and copepod. But when you analyze the fatty acid profile, okay, the fatty acid profile, you can see here, especially the omega-3 fatty acids or UPA content, the highly unsaturated fatty acids are 10-fold higher than artemia anoply and rotifer. Okay, this is evidence we have analyzed. And also you can see here the essential amino acids is always comparatively higher in copepod than artemia and rotifer. Okay, and then the next advantage here, you can see one of the important findings we have made. One of my scholar, Mr. Raju, actually he did his MPhil degree in this aspect. I asked him to just analyze the nutritional composition, especially fatty acid profile. Since the fatty acid is important bodybuilding compound, I asked him to analyze the nutrition, fatty acid profile of enriched artemia anoply, unenriched artemia anoply, and unenriched copepod. Okay, here I have given the result. The copepod, naturally grown copepod, unenriched copepod is having more UPA content than compared to even enriched artemia anoply. You can see here in the table, the EPA content is 7.2 in enriched artemia anoply, whereas in copepod, unenriched copepod, 9.81. Whereas the DHA content, you can see here, even in enriched artemia anoply, the DHA content is 3.6%, whereas in copepod, that is unenriched copepod, DHA is 11.49%. And even arachidonic acid, there is no arachidonic acid even in enriched artemia anoply, but the arachidonic acid is 2.81% in unenriched copepod. So this table clearly shows that if you use copepod to grow your fish larvae or shrimp larvae, there is no need of any additional bio-enrichment process or bio-encapsulation process. Okay, and you can see here in this table, we have analyzed the carotenoid and astaxanthin content of the copepod and artemia anoply. See, the astaxanthin is 32.13%. Okay, whereas in artemia, it is very meager level. It is in meager level. Similarly, the carotenoid content also always higher in copepod. Okay, so you can see here the astaxanthin content in copepod and artemia anoply. We have analyzed the astaxanthin content in different species of copepod, such as Macrocetula gracilis, Aithona rigida, Pseudodiatomaceous species, and artemia. So copepods, all copepods are showing more astaxanthin content than artemia anoply. And the moment if you take, I am proposing copepod is best feed. You may ask, sir, how do you say the copepod is best feed? Because copepod is a crustacean, is a vector. It is reported as a vector. It is a virus carrier. It is reported as a virus carrier in culture system in some country, whereas in India is so far not reported. For that to justify or to justify this question, no, I asked one of my student, Dr. S. Anand, now he is in NFDB New Delhi. I asked him to just study the antimicrobial activity of all live feeds, rotifer, artemia, and copepod. You can see here the evidence. The copepod is showing very good antimicrobial activity than rotifer and artemia. Okay, so this clearly indicate that the copepod is a good source of antimicrobial agent. Okay, so if you use in the system, there won't be any issue. And another advantage we behind the copepod, actually, if you use rotifer or artemia, the rotifer and artemia behavior, their movement behavior, if you give the rotifer in your culture tank, they used to be there in the bottom of the tank or sides of the tank. Whereas the artemia, they can move towards vertically or horizontally. Whereas our copepod, you can see here, the copepod, it has different movement pattern. Different movement patterns such as zigzag pattern, short gliding pattern, and jerking movement pattern. This movement pattern itself triggering the fish larvae to feed over the copepod, because most of the marine fishes, their behavior evolutionarily, they adapted to feed the feed which is more active. So the marine fishes, they used to chase their prey and engulf. Since copepod contains this different pattern, The moment if you give copepod in your pond or tank, it is available in all the places, in all the direction of the pond or tank, so that your animal will can easily identify and engulf them. Okay. And another big advantage, this is a big advantage in copepod, which is not exist in any other life feed, any other life feed. Now, the marine fish culture, especially the marine fish seed producer, hatchery producers, they are facing problem to feed their fish larvae, especially marine fish, because the Artemia, what we are using nowadays, the Artemia napli and rotifer, we have different types of rotifer, SS type, S type, L type, large type. This all rotifer and Artemia napli, the size is always larger than the mouth size of the marine fish. Okay, since it is larger than the mouth size of the marine fish, how the marine larvae can feed over the Artemia and rotifer? This is a big challenge in marine seed producers, so that because of this larger size, the fish, they may not able to feed over the Artemia and rotifer. Okay, this issue solved by our copepod. Why? Because you can see in the slide, the copepod contain 12 different stages. This metamorphosis stage, developmental stages, it has 12 developmental stages. It has 6 nauplier stage, 6 copepodite stage. Okay, starting from nauplius 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similarly, starting from copepodite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one is adult copepod, male and female. You can see here in the picture, each and every stage, it has their own size. Okay, if you use the copepod in your tank, based on the mouth size of the fish larvae, they can prepare, they can select based on their mouth size, and they can engulf if you use copepod. Whereas this type of advantage is not available in rotifer and Artemia. Okay. Okay, I wish to bring your attention here that you can see in this picture, in the slide, very recently, okay, one of the scientists, with the scientist from abroad, he identified the copepods are emitting pheromone. Emitting pheromone. What is pheromone? The pheromone is nothing but a type of hormone. Okay, the smell, nothing but smell. Actually, this behavior, the pheromone release, actually the male copepod, they release the pheromone in the water column to attract their female for their mating. This behavior now is helpful for the fish and larval production, because the moment if you give the copepod in your tank, your larval tank, okay, larval rearing tank, due to pheromone released by copepod, the fish larvae, they can easily locate the feed and feed over the copepod. This is one of the big advantage behind the copepod, which is not available in any other live feed organisms. Okay, and you can see this is very recent news. Some species of copepods are emitting light. Some species of copepods are bioluminescent. Okay, so during night time, okay, especially the just hatched larvae, the early larval first stage, their eye is not developed fully, because of this undeveloped eye. If you feed your fish larvae, because of this poor vision for the fish larvae, they are not able to identify their food, and so that they are facing the problem in identifying the prey. Whereas since copepods having this bioluminescent character, light emitting character, during night time, if you give this copepod to feed your LRT, larval rearing tank, larval tank, because of their glowing nature, copepod glowing nature, the larvae can easily locate their place so that they can easily engulf. So these are the advantages behind the copepod. If you use copepod in your culture system to produce your larvae, along with nutritional characters, the copepods are having other advantages like a broad spectrum of size, and it is releasing the pheromone or smell, and it is emitting light. These characters, along with the movement pattern, different movement pattern or swimming pattern, it will be a good potential or promising live feed to grow your fish larvae or shrimp larvae. So with these advantages, since copepod contains several advantages as a promising live feed, we started our work in Bharathidasan University, the Department of Marine Science, I actually, when I joined here in the Bardhasan University, I have applied the project, the DBT, they sanctioned the project immediately. Now, the DBT is one of the organization, funding agency, which is supporting a lot me to develop the copy board culture, because there is a separate task force in DBT, Aquaculture and Marine Biotechnology Task Force, where the project being sanctioned to develop the aquaculture. So in aquaculture sector, feed is one of the important factor, one of the important segment or component. How the root is important for a tree or plant, okay, how the foundation is important for a building. Similarly, the live feed is a base of the any culture system. If you produce good live feed, if you supply good live feed your animal, the animal will grow. In good condition without facing any disease outbreak. So because of these advantages, actually we started our work. We started collecting the copepods from different area, coastal area of Tamil Nadu, using the 158 micron net. So to collect the copepod, the suitable net for copepod collection is 158 micron. The ideal time for copepod sampling is early morning from 4 to 6 a.m. or otherwise late evening after 6 p.m. So during this time, if you go to sampling using the 158 micron mesh, you just tow in the sea surface, you can get lot of copepods. You can get abundant of copepods. So once collection is over, you can immediately take into copepods to the laboratory by providing aeration, vigorous aeration, okay, using the battery aerators. Okay. Once we reach the laboratory, in the laboratory, the problem in copepod, why the copepod is not developed so far as like or unlike Artemia or rotifer. We can easily culture the rotifer and Artemia in the hatchery condition. Whereas in copepod culture is very challenging, very big task. Okay, I will explain why it is very difficult. The copepod, if you collect the copepod from the sea, there will be a copepod, different species of copepods. We have different groups. 10 groups of copepods are there. Among the 10 groups, only 3 groups such as Calanoida, Cyclopoida, and Harpactioida are free living copepods or pelagic copepod, which can be used as a feed. Whereas the remaining 7 groups are parasitic copepod, which is not at all suitable as a live feed. Okay, once collection is over, we just segregate the collected copepod sample using the superimposed sieve. This is the superimposed sieve, what you are seeing in the screen. This is superimposed sieve. Okay, the superimposed sieve is nothing but it contains different sieves, different mesh. Okay, so 500 micron, 190 micron, 140 micron, 90 micron. Okay, at the end of the apparatus, there will be a collection bucket. Okay, so you just pour the collected copepod sample over the 500 micron, and based on the size of the copepods, different species or different groups will be segregated based on the size. Okay, so this segregated samples will be taken again for the further isolation under the microscope. Okay, here you can see after segregation, a known volume, a known concentration of copepod sample will be taken in the petri dish. Okay, under the stereosome microscope, we can just see the species and identify the species. Once identification is over, you can just target one individual. Okay, you can just target one individual with the help of a fine brush. Okay, now I show you some species for which we have developed the culture in our laboratory. So this is the identification. After identification, our scholars, my students, they are isolating the individual species. This is Nanocalanus minor, one of the common species in our Indian water. Okay, Nanocalanus minor. And this is Paracalanus parvus. Again, is a dominant copepod in Indian coastal and marine waters. Okay, and this is Pseudodiatomamus annandale. So before that, I will just let me explain about their behavior, reproduction behavior of the copepod. Okay, so copepod, it has 2 types of behavior. 2 types of behavior means the fertilization. Some species are having external fertilization, some species are internal fertilization. The most of the cyclopod, the species which comes under the cyclopoid group and Harpactioid group, the fertilization is internal. Whereas the species comes under the colonide group, fertilization is external. That means they release the eggs, the fertilization will be taken in the water, seawater. Whereas the cyclopod group of copepod and herpactikoid copepod, their fertilization will be internal, they release directly nauplius. This is the different reproductive behavior of the copepod. Okay. So here you can see the Pseudodiatomamus anandali, which comes under the colonide group. This is the only family, this is actually comes under the colonide group. This is the only family, Pseudodiatomidae, which is undergoing for internal fertilization. They can release directly nauplius. See here, you can see the egg, the egg clutch. The egg sac is attached with the abdomen of the female. Okay. And this is Pnittokera affinis. This is a herpactikoid copepod, which has external internal fertilization. You can see this is male copepod, this is female copepod, which attached the egg capsule, egg clutch on their abdomen. See, this is the nauplius stages, different metamorphosis stages of copepod. This is particular Pnittokera affinis. This is nauplius 1, nauplius 2, nauplius 3, nauplius 4, 5, 6. Okay. And this is copepodite stages. Copepodite 1, copepodite 2, 3, copepodite 5, 4, copepodite 5. This is adult male, adult female. So adult female, if it is cyclopod or if it is herpactikoid, during breeding season, they can carry the egg sac with their abdomen. Okay. And this is another important species which comes under the herpactikoid copepod, Thisbe species. Thisbe species. Okay. Next, this is the larval stages, nauplius and copepodite stages of Thisbe. Okay. And this is another important herpactikoid group, Heteropina acutiferans. Heteropina acutiferans. This is a cyclopod copepod. This is Aithona rigida. My dream species, I can say this is my dream species. Now is renamed as Diaithona rigida. Why I am telling this is my dream species, I will explain later. And this is Acacia centura, which comes under the colonide group. Acacia classi. Let me show some species. And this is Acacia spinicata, common species in our Indian coast. This is Acrocalanes gibber, again is a common species. And this is Calanopia species, is a rare species in Indian water. This is Centropages, again comes under the colonide group. This is Lepidosera pectinata, such a huge size. Size is very big, and calcified shells is also very hard. And this is Lepidosera acuta. This is you can see a very interesting species. This is Macrocetula gracilis, which comes under the herpactikoid group. This is actually benthic copepod, benthopelagic copepod. Here you can see the participants. You please you can see in the picture there is a pigments in the copepod. Okay, there is a pigment. This is nothing but this is azdazanthine pigment. We have analyzed and we found that this is azdazanthine pigment. And this is ICS. This is Aithona dissimilis, for which we recently developed the culture. We have pure culture for this species. Mr. Raji is working on this species. Then Timora. This is Thermocyclops, again the cyclopod group. And this is Tigropus species. Okay. So we have at present, actually, we are keep on going for sampling, collecting the copepods. As I have another project funded by MOEF, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, on DNA barcoding of marine copepod. We used to go for the sampling, collecting the species from different habitat like estuary, mangrove, open sea, lagoon, even salt pan. And we are continuously isolating the species and maintaining the stock culture in my laboratory. So this is the picture which is evidence for the stock culture maintenance. Okay. For the isolation, actually for the isolation of copepod, there is no need of any sophisticated instrument. Okay, there is no need of any sophisticated instrument. With the simple stempel pipette and micro pipette, with the simple ink pillar, with the simple fine brush and needle, you just take the diluted sample, that is segregated sample from the superimposed sieve. Take the sample, sit under the microscope, and you just see the species, what are the species are there in the petri dish. You can remove the other individual, you can target one individual species, and with the help of fine brush and needle, stempel pipette, and you can gently pick up the you can gently pick up the individual copyport. Okay, see here you can see with the help of this simple pillar, fine brush and needle, you can just gently pick up the male and female of the species. Okay, if it is no female and male, you can, if it is a cyclopide copyport, if it is a herpetoid copyport, you can just isolate the gravid female. Gravid female means the female which having egg sac with their abdomen. Okay, you just simply isolate the individual species which include male and female, or otherwise buried female, and transfer to initially to the test tube filled with the filtered and sterilized seawater. Okay, the water quality condition is very important to maintain the to grow the copyports. Okay, here you can see no numbers. Okay, no number. For example, at least you should isolate 100 numbers of copyport, individual species. That isolated copyports will be transferred to the 250 ml of glass beaker initially, or conical flask. Okay, and the water quality conditions such as temperature, salinity, pH, and dissolved oxygen will be maintained in the ranges of 25 to 28 degrees centigrade, 15 to 20 ppt salinity, 7.5 to 8.2 pH, 5 to 6.0 milligram per liter dissolved oxygen. If you maintain this water quality condition, but I will tell you this water quality not equal or not for all the species. So the water quality should be species dependent. Okay, you should not think that this water quality is for all the species of copy. Not like that. This water quality we have actually domesticated. At present, we have domesticated some nearly 10 species of copyports in my lab, and we have acclimatized these species to our own natural condition. Okay, and feed for copyport is microalgae. Microalgae is the best feed to grow the copyport. Especially here we are using Chlorella marina, Donaliella salina, Isochrysis galbana, and Nanochlorus species. If it is freshwater copyport, you can use Chlorella vulgaris, Chlamydomonas, or Cinerismus. Okay, but the concentration of algae is very important. You have to feed your copyport with recommended level of algae, because if you overfeed, there will be contamination. So if you overfeed your copyport, the contamination will occur. Okay, so the recommended concentration of algae 30,000 cells per ml. You have to feed your copyport at least with 1 ml of sample should contain 30,000 cells. Okay, so if you maintain the stock culture properly from the conical flask or beakers, you can subculture the copyport into bigger sized jars, 10 liter plastic jars, or if you wish, you can subculture into the 100 liter FRP tank or 1000 liter water FRP tank. That is based on your requirement. So this is the photograph which is showing our culture facility. So this is our copyport stock culture facility established under the financial support of DBT. We have very good facility for copyports and microalgae. Okay, see now we're going to see about the high density production. What is the need of high density production? Okay, so in India we are producing billions of larvae, billions of seed. Okay, so to feed billions of larvae, at least we should produce millions of copyports. Okay, one big challenge in copyport is contamination is very common, and another big disadvantage in copyport is getting high density is very difficult. Till now we are struggling to get more density, high density. For example, if you culture the rotifer, they can multiply. They multiply into millions of cells. Whereas Artemia, you can just hatch out Artemia using the known amount of cyst. Whereas the copyport, there is some disadvantage with copyport. The density is a major disadvantage, is a major drawback. To solve this density related drawback, actually we come out with some technique. It's called selective breeding. Selective breeding is one of the common technique applied in the fish and shrimp. The same technique will also can apply for the copyports to increase the production. I will tell the concept behind the selective breeding. If you grow the copyports in a tank or any system apparatus, okay, there will be inbreeding. Inbreeding means their sister one, the male, they can mate with their own young one. It will it will actually pave a way for less production. The reproduction capacity, the reproduction ability of the species, actually normally decrease when the animal will undergoes for inbreeding. By just instead of allowing the animals for inbreeding, we can select the potential individual. Okay, you can select the potential. You can maintain the copepod culture in a tank. You can randomly select the 50 individual species and another 50 individual set, and you can just maintain the individuals separately, and you can let them allow to reproduce, and you can produce the nauplius, the first generation. The zero generation is a combined culture. From the zero generation, you can isolate a known number of pairs, maintain in separate system. One is as a control, another one is a experiment. Okay, you can produce, you make them to reproduce. There will be nauplius release. That nauplius you can select, and you can allow the animal which is produced in experiment 1 and another experiment, so that we are maintaining the individual in separate tank, and we are allowing the male from one tank and collecting the female from another tank, and you can allow them to reproduce. Now we will selectively taking the animal individuals from different pair and allowing them for the reproduction. Now when compared to random selection, that selected animals which is allowing for selective breeding will produce more eggs. Okay, as like in a shrimp, and how we are doing selective breeding in fish or other animal, the same way we can select. Only thing, you have to maintain the water quality and proper feed should be given. Okay, see, this is a setup. Actually, here you can see the copepods will be cultured in a container. In the base of the container, there will be another compartment. So in the bottom of the culture container, the mesh will be fabricated, mesh. So once the male and female, if you stock male and female, that can undergoes for mating and release the eggs. That eggs will be collected in this place where there is a different component where the eggs will be passed through the mesh, and the adult will be maintained in the culture tank. Why we are segregating the eggs? No, if you just allow these eggs be there in the culture tank, there are some copepods are carnivorous copepods. They can feed on their own egg. So to just segregate the egg, we are using a different mesh fabricated culture container where the copepod will be maintained. And once the mating is over, the copepods will release the eggs. That eggs will be collected and accumulated in a collected compartment. From there, we can isolate the eggs and we can go for hatching in the separate containers. So this method now is somewhat give good result for high density production. Okay, then this is how we are selecting the individual species. I simply briefly explain about the selection. How you are selecting? You take 10 individuals from one tank. You take another 10 individuals from another tank. Okay, and you can measure their size, the male size, female size. You allow them to mate. They release the eggs, and you can collect the eggs, and you can measure the diameter of the eggs to different tanks. Okay, and now you can select which individual release more eggs, or which individual produce big sized eggs. So based on the egg production capacity, based on the size of the egg, the individual or animal which produce more eggs, or individual or animal which released big sized eggs, that animal will be selected for further selective breeding to produce the high density, to produce the copepods in high density. Very simple procedure, but you have to work, you have to sit under the microscope an hour. Simply coming, sitting, seeing the microscope, going, this is not at all helping for high density production. You have to continuously monitor the animal at least 2 hours once. 2 hours once you have to monitor the animal in the tank. Then only we can able to know which animal is releasing more eggs, or which condition, water quality condition is releasing more eggs, and which feed is suitable to egg copepod to release more eggs. These are the things. Based on this, we can select the animal and we can go for selective breeding for high density production. Okay, so this is a simple pictorial explanation for the selective breeding. You just collect the copipods from the stock culture. You can take 50 pairs, 50 pairs.
No audio, sir.
Participants, please be wait for a few minutes. There is some technical issue. Okay. Sure. So by maintaining isolating individual from different tank, we can produce the copypod in high density. Okay. The another method how to produce the copipods in high density called selective breeding, which we so far discuss is normal selective breeding. The another method to produce the copypod in high density is cold selective breeding. The cold selective breeding is nothing but I will explain briefly. Okay, you have stock culture. Okay, copypod stock culture. You collect a known number of copypods from a stock culture, a 50 number of individual, another 50 number of individual from the same tank, and you can maintain. You can inoculate a 50 number in one container where the temperature will be maintained at the normal temperature. The normal temperature means 25 plus 3, plus or minus 25 plus or minus 3, 28 degrees centigrade, which temperature is maintained in stock culture for copypod, stock culture of copypod. Okay, the now one set of copypods will be maintained in the normal temperature. The another set of copypod will be maintained in the 18 degrees centigrade. Okay, so here you can just study the egg production, how much egg is produced, the animal which is maintained in temperature to normal temperature and low temperature. So which temperature is favorable to produce more eggs? Such temperature should be applied for the high density production. This is called cold selective breeding. Okay, so this very simple technique. To maintain the temperature, you need the environmental chamber incubation. I mean, thermostatic condition you have to maintain. So, so based on the result which you are getting from a cold selective breeding, I mean, which animal is producing more egg, that animal further can be used for the as a inoculum for the high density production in the RAS system. Okay. Yeah. Then this is a simple pictorial explanation for the cold selective breeding. We have the stock culture. From stock culture, you can isolate known numbers. That should be culture in the 28 degrees centigrade temperature. The another set of animal will be cultured in the 18 degrees centigrade. Or you wish, you can optimize the different temperature. There is no problem. And you can find which temperature is supporting for more egg production. Okay. Then another one is actually to feed your fish larvae, to feed your billions of larvae, we should provide more biomass, copypod live feed biomass, and also we should supply continuously. So for continuous copypod production, for each and every species, not only copypod, for each and every animal, there will be some breeding season. Okay, for example, if there is a fish normally they will undergoes for breeding during time of summer season. So like that, for each and every animal plant, there will be a specific breeding season. So, but I need copypod to feed my larvae continuously. Then in that is the case, I am going for some induced breeding as like fish, how we are doing induced breeding using some external force. Okay, for example, if you take sea bass fish, normally sea bass fish will breed only particular time, but the farmers, they need a seed for production culture. So to supply the seed for farmers throughout the year, in the SIBA, Dr. A.R. Tirunavakar is a well-known ICR scientist. He developed the technology for induced breeding of sea bass, which can help the fish to mate and which can release, fish can able to release the eggs throughout the year. So like that, we can also produce the copepod continuously by using some hormone. I will tell you that hormone, there are some hormones available in the market. You can use that hormone to induce your copepod to go for mating, reproduction. So that hormone should be optimized. The hormone level concentration should be optimized. That optimized suitable concentration of hormone. For example, bisphenol A and 17B estradiol. These are some hormones. But the dose should be optimized. The optimized dose will be applied directly in the copepod culture tank. And before that, before you inoculate the copepod, you have to inoculate the microalgae. So you have to just add your recommended level of recommended dose of hormone, induced hormone, along with microalgae to the copepod. So when the copepod get that hormone through the feed, microalgae, or otherwise they can directly avail the hormone, because since it is copepods or filter feeding organism, they can directly take that hormone. So once it get the hormone enter into their body, the male and female copepods can induce for mating. Once it undergoes for mating, they can release the eggs. So this is one of the method for the continuous production of copepod. Okay. And another way of method, by triggering some water quality condition. Water quality, for example, temperature, salinity. For each and every species, there will be a optimized temperature or optimized salinity, heat. So just you can trigger the animal by applying a different temperature, heat. For example, I will tell you heat shock. If you give animal with heat shock, they may be induced for breeding. Similarly, cold shock. Similarly, salinity shock. Okay, light shock. So there are the animals based on the environmental conditions only. They can go for mating, reproduction. When they get favorable condition, they can successfully reproduce and release the eggs. So by triggering the water quality parameters conditions, we can make the copepod to produce eggs continuously. This is a very simple thing. But before that, you have to work on a year. You have to optimize the condition, which condition or which parameter is suitable to produce the more eggs. That should be done. Otherwise, you could not able to achieve your target. Then another method for continuous copepod production, probiotic induction. Nowadays, actually, we are using the probiotic bacteria to enrich their nutritional profile of any organism. For example, even in fish culture, shrimp, we are using probiotic to induce their nutritional efficiency for their reproduction or whatever may be, or nutritional profile. The same way, there are some probiotic bacteria which can be enriched in the copepod. Okay, that probiotic bacteria can be enriched, bio-encapsulated in the copepod. Once that copepod get enriched by probiotic bacteria, recommended probiotic bacteria, that bacteria, the moment if they can enter into the digestive system, they can release some hormone which is stimulating the copepods for reproduction. So like that, you can induce the copepods for the continuous production. Okay. Some probiotics, I can say Bacillus, even as like other probiotic bacteria, you can use to enrich your copepod. Okay, by adopting or by applying these all selective breeding, okay, selective breeding and continuous breeding using the standardized protocol or method, you can induce your copepod so that copepod can be able to produce more eggs that should be cultivated in the RAS, recirculation aquaculture tank. Okay, recirculation aquaculture tank is nothing but actually, as our institute, our university is located at Tiruchirappalli, which is far away from a coastal area. Sea. Actually, we used to bring the seawater, store in the storage tank. That seawater will be filtered through the series of filters, and filtered water will be supplied to all culture tanks. So once water filled and the culture tank, the copepod, a no number of copepods. The no number of copepod means the copepod which produce more eggs. That individuals, that strains will be inoculated directly into the culture tank, and we are providing the suitable environmental water quality condition, continuous aeration. Okay, and we should maintain the hygienic condition in the hatchery. Okay, because the copepods are so sensitive, as like algae. It is not like other fish or macroorganism, even though it is dominant in ocean, but in culture condition and captive condition, they are very sensitive. The common problem occurring in copepod culture is contamination. The contamination is very common. Okay, so these are some actually this is the RAS developed in our university campus under the financial support of Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. So we have very good mass culture facility. Okay, and I will just simply explain about the working principle of RAS. Okay, before that you have to wash all your tanks or any vessels or utensil which is contact with the copepod. That should be washed properly in filtered water. Okay, and you can also wash your culture tank with some what is it called, the low residue laboratory detergent like Alconax and Sparkling, and followed by acid wash using the muriatic acid, 100% muriatic acid, and all culture apparatus, tanks, everything should be washed clean, and you have to maintain hygienic condition in the system, in the place where you going to culture the copepod, because the copepods are very sensitive for the contamination. Okay, and we are using different filters, sand filter, bag filter, biofilter, and UV filter. So the seawater will be passed through the various filters. Okay, I will explain briefly. This is actually a schematic representation of the RAA system. The seawater will be stored in the ST, so storage tank. From the storage tank, by using pump, the seawater will be passed through the sand filter, bag filter, UV filter, and the UV filter seawater will be supplied to the all culture tank. The CCC is a copepod culture tank. So we have prototype. Simultaneously, we can able to produce 2 species of copepods. These 3 tank is to maintain the different stages of copepod, Nauplius, copepodite, and adult. Suppose if farmers they want only adult, means we can able to supply only harvest the adult copepod and supply to the farmers. If the farmers they need if they want Naupliae, we can able to harvest the Naupliae alone by using a mechanized sieve. We have mechanized sieve which is helping for segregation of Nauplius, copepodite, and adult. So that should be done and supplied to the farmers. Okay, so in the culture tank we will be maintaining the copepod. As I said earlier, microalgae is a feed for copepod. Okay, so at the outside we are culturing microalgae. So microalgae will automatically supplied to the copepod tank by using the dosing pump. We have dosing pump. So we have to normally we used to set that dose, how much microalgae or how much ml volume of microalgae will be supplied to the copepod. We can set in the dosing pump. So for ml per minute or per hour, this much microalgae will be supplied. So it is automatically the microalgae will be supplied and aeration will be given continuously. Okay, and from the wastewater from culture tank, they left out microalgae, unutilized microalgae will be there in the culture tank, and a fecal matter of copepod will be there in the culture tank. So that should be treated. If you allow them be there in the system, it will create the water quality problem and ammonia gas will be increased. So to solve this, we are using recirculation tank. Here you can see there is a separate line for collecting the wastewater from the copepod culture tank. That wastewater, not full 100% wastewater, a partial amount of wastewater will be collected here in the RCT, recirculation tank, where the different types of sensors are there to water, temperature sensor, salinity sensor, pH sensor. From the RCT, recirculation tank, water will be pumped through the sand filter, then carbon filter, then finally biofilter. Biofilter we are maintaining, we are providing the substratum to microbes to grow, probiotic bacteria. So for all probiotic bacteria available in the biofilter will remineralize the waste and remineralize into very useful compounds such as nitrogen and phosphorus. So that filtered water again recirculated to the all culture tank, including copepod tank and microalgae tank. So by adopting the selective breeding technique and induced breeding technique, we started working or inoculating the copepods in RAS tank, prototype RAS tank, and the culture is concerned. So far we have achieved this much density. density is concerned. For example, pseudodiatomus, this much density per liter. Okay. Then Paracalanus parvus, the density of the Paracalanus parvus, this much numbers per liter, which include Nauplius, copepodite, and adult. Okay. And this is Pseudodiatomus anandali, one of the common calanoid groups. Okay. And here you can see some video graphs under the microscope. Okay. So Pseudodiatomus. See here you can see the movement of the copepod. So this is actually the Pseudodiatomus anandali is an ideal feed for fish, marine fish. The Napoli is suitable for shrimp. Just actually, you can see here the biomass of the Pseudodiatomus anandali cultured in under liter of tank. This is a biomass in under liter tanks. Okay. So this is actually pelagic copepod, free living copepod. They used to be there in all the places of the tank or container, so that the animal, the larvae, the fish or shrimp larvae can easily catch the copepods for their feeding. So you can see here the same Pseudodiatomus anandali cultured in 5,000 liter tank, FRP tank. You can see here the same Pseudodiatomus anandali, which is cultured in 5,000 liter tank, that in a system, in RAS system. You can see the biomass, how much biomass is there. And here you can see the biomass of the copepod cultured in 10,000 liter, 10-ton tank, 10-ton tank. See the biomass, see their movement. So they are very active and so healthy copepods. Okay, so this particular movement pattern or swimming pattern is prepared by the marine larvae. The marine larvae, they used to chase their prey and engulf. That behavior they got evolutionarily. Okay, so this is another. This Erpakite copepod, I wish to bring to your kind attention that this particular species is ideal for shrimp to grow. The reason is this is benthopelagic copepod. Benthopelagic means they used to be there in the water column and also bottom of the pond or tank. So that this is ideal feed to shrimp to grow. And you can see the movement pattern of this particular species. See, just like a worm, they are moving. Their movement pattern is called jet propulsion. Jet propulsion. This behavior actually triggering the shrimp, especially the shrimp, to feed over this particular species. This is Nitochara affinis. And this is the total population density. I mean, population in the culture system. And previously, I told this is a dream species. The Aithona rigida or Diaithona rigida is my dream species. Why I am telling this is the species which can produce more eggs. This species can be able to yield more density in culture system. So because to feed billions of larvae, we have to provide more, we have to produce more copepod to produce the billions of larvae. So in density is concerned, this particular species is very good candidate species, and that means it has fast reproduction capacity, high reproduction capacity, so that they can produce more eggs. So this is a very good, even nutrition point of view, these are a good species. You can see the just videographs, microscopic video of this particular species. So this comes under the cyclopod group. This is actually the harvested biomass. See the harvested biomass of the Aithona rigida. Okay. And this is the density population of the Thisbe species. And this is the actually facility which we have established in our university campus. The RAS, this is the first RAS established in our country. This is the first RAS, recirculation aquaculture system facility exclusively for culture of marine copy ports. You don't get this facility. Of course, you don't get the copy ports culture anywhere from India. Okay, we are the only people, those who are having culture, copy port culture, and we are supplying the copy ports to national labs such as SIBA, Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture, even CM for A, okay, and other universities like Marine Biology, Annamalai University, even NIO. So we are supplying the copy port stock culture to other national labs, fisheries lab, and universities. So see, this is the total the setup, the RAS facility established in our university campus. And I wish to emphasize here that these are some clippings, news clippings published in dailies in the local newspapers about our breakthrough. We have developed the culture technology for marine copy ports, especially 2 species, for the first time in India. And we have now nearly 10 species of stock culture we are maintaining. And we are also doing the mass culture in RAS. So whenever we need a copy port, of course, I have a DBT project, one DBT project that is on high density production and supply of copy ports to the farmers. Those the farmers they need, we will provide the copy port stock, brood stock. From that brood stock, they have to develop the mass propagation. But we will extend our technical support, technical guidance we will give. And we have these are some clippings. These actually scientists from SIBA, Central Institute of Brackish Water Aquaculture. He came forward here. He came to our department. He received the copy port strains from our former vice chancellor. Okay, this is some photographs I will show you for some just for evidence. Okay, this is my duty. Okay, to thank the people, those who are helping me to develop this facility, copy port culture technology, as well as the facility in our university. I should thank Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, especially Aquaculture and Marine Biotechnology Task Force, those who sanctioned nearly 3 projects me. So under the financial support of DBT only, I can able to develop the copy port culture technique and also the RAS facility. So I should thank the DBT, Government of India, for their continuous financial support to bring the copy port as a commercial product. Okay, and I should thank our university authority for their support and continuous support and in infrastructure facility to establish this culture facility. I should thank a man behind me, who is none other than Dr. A.R. Tirunavukarasu, who is my role model in research. He is my great inspiration. He helped me a lot and he guided me a lot, especially the larvae. Whenever I required larvae, he ready to give the larvae, sea bass larvae, for my experiment, some experiment. And I should thank Mr. Jairaj. He is a senior technician working previously in Rank Marine Hatchery, and now he is in Winner Marine Hatchery. Actually, he is a man without charging a single paise. Okay, whenever I request him for larvae, shrimp larvae, he is readily helping me. So I should thank Mr. Jairaj. In afternoon session, we're going to see how the copy port is improving the growth and survival and pigmentation of the fish larvae. That is an afternoon session. Okay. So, and I should thank all my students, all my past student and current student. I should thank all, especially the Dr. S. Anand. He is a man who developed initially the culture. He is a very hardworking personality. He used to be there in the lab 24/7, even for any festival or any family function also. He never used to go. He was with me. Now he is a fishery consultant at NFDB, National Fisheries Development Board, New Delhi. He only helped me to develop this culture. He has delivered his hard work. Because of him only we can able to achieve this copy port culture. I extend my thanks to all my students, all my starting from Sivakumar and all Dinesh Kumar, all my past student and current student, those who are maintaining the copy port, Raju and other students. So I should thank all my students. Those are really the strength of this achievement. Okay. Then I should thank my guru and my mentor who brought me, who guide me and who introduced me into this field, copy port culture, Dr. Perumal, Professor Perumal. is a former professor at Center of Advanced Study in Marine Biology, Annamalai University, and later he was a professor and head Department of Biotechnology, Periyar University. Now he is working as a UGC BSR faculty fellow in my department, in our department, Department of Marine Science, Bharadas University. I should thank all the participants for your kind listening. I extend my sincere thanks to my the co-organizer and our HOD and all my faculty members. They are always so cooperative, so supportive. Especially I should thank Dr. Rajaram because he is a co-investigator of this project. So I thank all my faculty fellows and my research scholars, postdoctoral fellows. Okay, those who are really a strength of my career here. So with this, I wind up to a morning session. Okay, so participants, if you have any queries, clarification, I am very happy to answer to your